He started with nothing but a phone and a camera. No dialogue, no fancy equipment, just pure creativity. Today, we're breaking down how Khaby Lame went from an unknown teenager in Italy to one of TikTok's biggest creators, and then made the controversial decision that changed everything. How did he sell his empire? And more importantly, was it really worth it? Stay tuned. If you've spent any time on TikTok or Instagram, you've definitely seen Khaby's content. Those silent skits poking fun at life hacks. That's him. With over 160 million followers across platforms, he's one of the most followed creators on the planet. But the story of how he built his business and what happened next is way more interesting than you might think. Let's rewind to 2020. The world just shut down. Everyone was locked inside, desperate for entertainment. That's when Khaby Lame, real name Khaby Lame, decided to pick up his phone and start creating content. He didn't have a business plan. He didn't have investors backing him. What he had was an observation about human nature. He noticed that people were obsessed with life hacks, these viral videos showing supposedly genius ways to solve everyday problems. The problem, most of them didn't actually work, or they were way more complicated than necessary. So Khaby did something genius. He started reacting to these fake life hacks with the most powerful tool available, silence combined with a facial expression. No words, no explanations, just pure, unfiltered judgment delivered through a simple head shake or a look of complete bewilderment. This approach was revolutionary for one simple reason: it transcended language barriers. In a globalized social media landscape, content creators were competing in English-dominated spaces. Khaby didn't need to speak. His comedy was universal. Psychologically, this tapped into something powerful: human recognition. When you see someone react to something absurd the way you would react to it, you feel seen. You feel connected. That's the foundation of community, and community is the foundation of influence. Within months, Khaby went from zero to millions of followers. By late 2020, he was already becoming a phenomenon. By 2021, he was the most followed person on TikTok. The algorithm loved him, brands loved him, most importantly, audiences loved him. Now, here's where many creators get stuck. They have followers, sure, but turning followers into actual revenue is a different beast. Khaby understood this early. He started doing brand deals. His feed became a mix of organic content and sponsored posts. Brands were desperate to work with him. Why? Because he had something increasingly rare in 2021, authentic reach with zero gatekeeping. Whether you spoke English, Spanish, Hindi, or Mandarin, you could understand his content. But here's the thing about relying solely on brand deals and social media ad revenue: it's not scalable in the way you'd want if you're thinking like an entrepreneur. You're always trading time and content for money. You're at the mercy of algorithm changes. You're dependent on platforms that could change their policies overnight. Khaby started thinking bigger. Around 2021-2022, Khaby began transitioning from content creator to brand builder. This is the crucial moment where many creators fail. They think they are the product. But Khaby understood something deeper. He was building a media company. He started Humble TV, a production company designed to create content at scale. The idea was simple. Why rely on just Khaby's output when you could build a system that produces content across multiple creators and multiple platforms simultaneously? This is classic business scaling. You've hit the ceiling of what one person can produce, so you build infrastructure. You hire editors, producers, and other creators. You systematize what made you successful and replicate it. Humble TV began producing content beyond just Khaby's own channel. They were creating content for Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, everywhere. They experimented with different creators and different content formats, always betting on what had worked: simple, universal humor that didn't require language. But here's where Khaby's decisions get really smart from a business perspective. He wasn't just creating random content. He was positioning himself as a media infrastructure. Think about the landscape in 2021-2022. TikTok was exploding. Instagram was desperately trying to compete with Reels. YouTube was pushing Shorts. Every platform was hungry for short-form video content. Meanwhile, most creators were still thinking like individuals, not companies. Khaby was thinking like a CEO. He recognized that the real value wasn't in his face, it was in the system that produced the content. This is crucial because it made his company inherently more valuable to potential acquirers. You can't own a person's face forever, but you can own a content production system. His content strategy was also deliberately designed for maximum reach and minimum friction. No dialogue meant, no subtitles needed, no cultural references that wouldn't translate, no complex jokes requiring context. Maximum shareability across every demographic. This is retention psychology at its finest. People share what makes them feel smart. When you understand a joke without explanation, you feel clever. When you can immediately predict where a video is going, you feel validated. Khaby's content delivered both feelings instantly. The data supported this. His videos were getting absurd engagement rates. We're talking millions of views, hundreds of thousands of shares, comments, and saves. For a brand or platform trying to prove their short-form video capabilities, Khaby's content was gold. By 2022-2023, Khaby wasn't just a creator anymore. He was a case study. Business schools were analyzing his rise. Media companies were watching. And yes, acquisition offers were coming. We need to understand what was happening in the media landscape at this time. Major entertainment companies were panicking. TikTok had proven that Gen Z didn't want traditional media anymore. They wanted short-form content from relatable creators. Streaming services were fighting for subscribers. Production companies were desperate for content pipelines that actually worked with younger audiences. Khaby represented something incredibly valuable, a proven, scalable system for creating content that resonated with the exact demographic that traditional media was losing. This is where the phrase, "sold his soul," becomes interesting, because it's actually a sign of Khaby being incredibly smart, not the opposite. Here's the reality. Khaby had built Humble TV into a functioning business. But there are limits to what an independent content company can do. You're limited by capital for expansion, negotiating power with platforms, access to distribution channels and partnerships, ability to invest in technology and infrastructure, geographic and market expansion opportunities. A major company could offer all of these things. They could take Khaby's proven formula and scale it globally in ways he couldn't independently. They could invest millions into technology, hire top talent, and leverage existing relationships with platforms and brands. For Khaby, the decision wasn't about selling out, it was about amplification. It was about taking something that worked at a certain scale and making it work at an exponential scale. But we can't ignore the psychological aspect. Here, building something from nothing is deeply personal. It represents your vision, your creativity, your identity. Letting go of that control is genuinely difficult, regardless of the financial incentives. Some creators struggle with this. They hold on because the business is tied to their ego. Others, like Khaby, understood something crucial. The goal wasn't to own the company forever. The goal was to maximize the value of what he'd built and transition that value into something more secure, more scalable, and ultimately more impactful. There's wisdom in knowing when to hold and when to fold. Khaby clearly knew. Here's where we need to be specific about what actually happened, because the narrative matters. Khaby didn't sell to a single mega corporation in one headline-grabbing deal. His journey involved multiple partnerships and deals. He signed with major talent agencies. He partnered with platforms. He explored various monetization and partnership opportunities with companies interested in his content production capabilities. The exact figures of these deals haven't been fully disclosed, and that's strategic. When you're negotiating in entertainment, you don't announce exact numbers. It invites complications with tax authorities, it affects future negotiations, and it creates targets for lawsuits. But based on industry knowledge and various reports, we're talking about deals in the range of tens of millions of dollars, potentially higher when you account for all partnerships and revenue-sharing agreements combined. Here's where understanding the actual business structure is important. Khaby likely didn't just sell Humble TV outright. Instead, he probably structured multi-year talent deals, revenue-sharing agreements, equity stakes in parent companies, ongoing production and creative roles, merchandising and IP licensing deals. This is how smart creators do it. You don't sell everything to one company for a lump sum. You diversify your revenue streams and partnerships to maximize long-term wealth while maintaining control over your creative output. Think about it like a portfolio. You're invested in multiple areas, reducing risk while increasing total potential return. Khaby's negotiating position was incredibly strong. Here's why. First, he had proven, scalable success. This isn't theoretical. Millions of people were watching his content daily. Second, he had options. Multiple companies wanted to work with him. In negotiation, options equal leverage. When you can walk away, your counterparty has to offer something genuinely valuable. Third, he had age and longevity on his side. At the time of these negotiations, Khaby was in his mid-20s. He could credibly promise 10 to 20 plus years of creative output. That's worth money. Fourth, he understood his own market value better than most. He knew his content worked across platforms, demographics, and geographies. He knew brands wanted to work with him. He could walk into negotiations with data to back up his asks. So what happened after the deals were done? Did Khaby disappear? Did his content become corporate and sterile? Actually, no, and this is important because it contradicts the "sold his soul" narrative. Khaby continued creating content. His videos didn't suddenly become less funny or more obviously corporate. In fact, many fans didn't notice much difference at all. He was now backed by bigger infrastructure, but the core of what made him successful, that silent comedy, that relatability, remained intact. This is actually the smart move. The worst thing you can do after acquiring a creator is change what made them successful. Khaby understood this. His corporate partners understood this. So they essentially gave him resources to do more of what was already working. Here's what people often miss about creator exits: the money is often secondary to the freedom it creates. Before these deals, Khaby was constantly creating to stay relevant, dependent on algorithm changes, unable to take extended breaks, vulnerable to platform policy shifts, limited in what he could invest in. After these deals, assuming they included appropriate financial packages, he has runway to think long-term. He can afford to take creative risks without immediate financial pressure. He can invest in other ventures. He can build a business empire, not just a personal brand. He has security for himself and his family. This isn't selling your soul. This is using your leverage to buy freedom. Why the "sold his soul"? The phrase "sold his soul" implies corruption or compromise. It suggests that Khaby made a deal with the devil, that he gave up authenticity for money. But here's the truth. This narrative exists largely because of how we psychologically process success and commercialization. There's a cognitive bias where audiences want creators to be pure. We want them to be creating just for love of the craft, not for money. But this is unrealistic. Everyone needs to eat. Everyone has bills. Everyone has dreams that require capital. When a creator becomes successful enough to monetize effectively, some audiences feel betrayed. Not because anything actually changed, but because the illusion of purity is shattered. We're now forced to acknowledge that the creator was always building towards something commercial. We just didn't want to see it. Khaby didn't change. Our perception of him did. What Khaby actually demonstrated was business maturity. He built something real, recognized its value accurately, negotiated from a position of strength, made decisions that aligned with his goals, didn't get emotional about letting go of control, transitioned successfully without losing his audience. These are the actions of a sophisticated business operator, not someone who sold out. So here's the real story. Khaby Lame didn't sell his soul. He sold a successful business at the right time in the right market conditions to maximize his wealth and expand his opportunities. He understood something that most creators never grasp. The goal isn't to be a creator forever. The goal is to build something valuable and then leverage that value to create security, freedom, and opportunity for yourself. Whether you're a creator, entrepreneur, or someone interested in business, Khaby's journey offers real lessons about strategic thinking, knowing your market value, and understanding when to hold and when to fold. What do you think? Did Khaby make the right call? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown valuable, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into how modern creators and entrepreneurs are building their empires. Thanks for watching.